Sauerthausen, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Summers, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Hello, everyone that is joining us today. I am joined today by my esteemed colleague Brenna and my less esteemed colleague Damien. How are you doing today, guys?
Well, take one. Well done. High five, Fergus. Congrats on the introduction.
Yeah.
Too good, Fergus. Good to be here with you guys.
I did steal the producer's joke. That I was strictly instructed by the producer to say that. We're just going to be going over the results today in Monte Carlo, a little debrief of today's action, and then a little preview of tomorrow's in some sense of the word. So I think it's only right to start with the first result that came in today, which was Lehečka versus Korda. Did either of you...
Wait, Fergus, how do you know which result was first today?
It's just, I have a really good memory for these sorts of things, Damien. I have a really good...
Is this because I think I saw a thread on Twitter, which was actually just noting which winner came first and which came second, which came 11th. That was so informative. I wish I remembered who wrote it.
I know. I was actually thinking I definitely saw a thread today, but I don't remember who did it. So, you know, we'll have to stop right there. But anyway, okay, right. Well, that's unnecessary. But did either of you catch any of this Lehečka Korda match?
I saw some of the tail end of it. Obviously, a good serving performance, I think, in terms of, you know, moving on to the clay. Lehečka, obviously, we know how, you know, good of a ball striker he is. You know, he hits it very flat, and it's obviously, you know, our first clay event of the year, so it always looks a little bit different. But 88% behind his first serve, you know, obviously that kept him kind of out ahead, and then, you know, played a good breaker. But in terms of a 50-50 match, I think this is as close to one as we could have saw.
Yeah, I mean, Lehečka was one of the few seeds who lost both Indian Wells and Miami first round. So, well, second round, but first match. So that's kind of vital for him to survive something like this. Korda, anytime I see him in Monte Carlo, I just think of that Alcaraz match from 3 years ago. But yeah, I guess it's fair for Iji to win this one, and I did not see any of it.
I only caught little bits and pieces because I was swapping between Wawrinka, Tabilo, and this match. But it looked as though Lehečka had it pretty much on his racket the entire match until kind of got a bit hairy towards the breaker, but then he played a very solid breaker. Korda did have a set point, but didn't take it. First serve from Lehečka, and then did well on the breaker to close it out. So yeah, a strong start for Lehečka in the clay season. Obviously, the first clay event of the year. Big clay event of the year. So Lehečka will go to face Musetti in round 2. Musetti also played today against Boo. So did either of you catch any of that match? I'm going to guess Damien's answer is no.
Why?
I'm just guessing that your answer is no.
I saw a bit because it got interesting.
Okay.
I kind of think what we saw today from Musetti against Boo on clay, like it's kind of the worst case scenario for Lorenzo. Like I was so sure he was going to win, but obviously it got very like dicey. He was 2-4 down in the 2-4 down in the second set, 30 all as well. Bu, his skill set, I mean, he's not known for clay results, but like his skill set was very good for the qualifying matches he had, especially against Ramos Vignolas, where like that physical domination he had over the veteran was just insane. And against Musetti, you just think that maybe he kind of has no real options because, well, Lorenzo is so good on clay and everything. But I mean, it's not that easy for the Italian, I guess, to just, I don't know, win points. It's like not very obvious for him how he has to proceed every single match, right? So there's a lot to figure out often about his game. Good for him that he did, though, because obviously Monte Carlo is always a very strong event for him. Speaking of big wins, as I mentioned, that Korda Alcaraz one, this is where he beat Djokovic for the only time so far. So yeah, I'm always looking at him as like a potential contender here, but most certainly after this performance, there's a little bit more doubt as to his ability to get through even Lehečka.
Brenna?
Yeah, I mean, I did catch the Musetti match pretty much right after he got broken to start the second set. But yeah, I mean, as Damien said, like Bu is just such a tough opponent. I feel like for anyone, just because he can hang from the baseline so well, and as you said, like he is such a physical player and he shrinks the court well. And when he got times to play offense, he was looking to be aggressive. But you could tell kind of as the match was progressing that Musetti felt like he was getting more rhythm, a little bit just more comfortable. And Bu is maybe looking to use more variety than he's used to, especially like the drop shot. It wasn't very clean. It wasn't really timely, and Musetti was continuing to get to them. But he did pull it off. He actually went for 3 straight drop shots from, I think, 30-15 up, and Musetti ended up getting a break point. But then he clutched a beautiful drop shot and then was able to hold. But yeah, I just felt like as the match progressed, and Bu was, had his nose out in front, you could feel him getting a little bit tighter.
Yeah, that's just funny to what we have on the screen.
But yeah, I mean, go ahead, give your thoughts, Fergus, and then maybe we can preview.
Yeah, I kind of thought this one was wrapped up from Bu, to be honest. Obviously, Musetti plays well here in Monte Carlo, and he's obviously a great clay court player. But from the first hour of watching Musetti, I really thought that Bu would have this done and dusted, and I kind of switched it off, and then I saw the highlight of that Musetti backhand winner on set point, and it kind of re-grabbed my attention. But yeah, so Musetti will play Lehečka, which is actually a really nice sort of round of 32 matchups. So how do you two see that going? We'll go Damien first.
I mean, I already said that, Musetti, to me, he was in that big cluster with Zverev, Rune, Tsitsipas is like one of the favorites to make the. Actually, I think that was one of my big calls yesterday. That one of these 4 players will beat Djokovic in the semis and then make the final. But I don't know which of these 4 it will be. And yeah, Lehečka in the second round, it's not that easy. I do trust that Musetti will have a pretty good chance to beat Zverev potentially in the third round if that much happens, because that's also not a certainty. But yeah, Lehečka, it's going to be pretty rough. Of course, the matches that we see right now on the screen, these were just hard courts. 2022 Rotterdam, that was the breakthrough run of Lehečka, and of course, Miami, I wouldn't really expect Lorenzo to be beating him. But here, I guess it's pretty open. Monte Carlo conditions, they tend to be very slow, very windy. That's way better for Lorenzo if that happens. Maybe it's actually going to be a bit better. What do you mean, Keen, with I didn't know we're supposed to call him Bu? I mean, he basically has just one name. Like Bu in Chalketa is the one name. But you can also call him Bu. I think Bert is another nickname. But basically, there's no name. He just has literally one name. There was also a comment about me. Oh yeah, surprised that I was watching the Vacheron doubles. I just like the story of him potentially getting a win in both competitions, of course, with the wildcards, and also with his cousin today. That would have been fun, but that didn't happen. Ghosty, this is not a Chinese name, though. You're gonna love me saying this. Ethnically Mongolian.
Every day's a school day with Damien. Wow.
Exactly. I agree with Damien. I just think Mussetti's such a tough guy to beat here, and as I said, I just felt like he got into more of a rhythm as the match went on, and I think he'll be able to settle in a little bit more. But Lehechka, obviously, like if you can serve like like he did today, that's going to give him more of an opportunity. But just Mussetti's variety, comfort from the baseline, and just like I think the clay overall, that's where you just continue to give the edge to Musetti.
Yeah, I think it's tough to pick against Musetti with more sort of not experience, but I think more pedigree on the clay. Lehechka can often blow hot and cold, and can sometimes see a big dip in performance during matches. But I think this one definitely goes 3. But I'm going to give the edge to Musetti. But yeah, it could be a bit of a chaotic 3-setter, but I think Musetti will come through a bit like he did today against Bu. I think we have to talk about Medvedev and Khachanov, because if neither of you two caught any of this, then you really missed out on what was a really, I don't even know the words to describe it. It was very odd, but was very entertaining. Brenda, did you get any of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I was in and out of the match because, I thought the first set was a wash. And then obviously Khachanov comes all the way back. I mean, just to lose the set. But I just think it's like a tales all the time in terms of these guys knowing each other so well, kind of in terms of how their play style. But Medvedev honestly surprised me. You just talk about such a physical match and both players, knowing each other so well in terms of expectations. You feel like it could have gone either way. I honestly, was leaning more on Karen's side going into the match, just from a clay perspective. But, Medvedev ebbs and flows. But ultimately, he handled it well. And obviously, we've been talking about the last however months about his lack of comfort and how he expresses that in terms of being on the clay, but he doesn't look too bad, and obviously a crazy roller coaster of a match.
Yeah, I mean, bloody mess as usual with Medvedev and clay. I personally didn't watch a point because I was like, yeah, I'm not too invested in that. Khachanov obviously beat him in Monte Carlo last year. Probably the better clay quarter generally, but well, good for Daniel to push through. It's kind of like this year, when he has good conditions for his game, he's actually less likely to succeed. Like, just kind of digs deeper when things are against him, the same way he did in Indian Wells, really. So maybe that's a factor. I heard that the balls are also better for him, the ones that they're using here, than, I don't know, Miami, for example. So that could be another thing. But yeah, I mean, that's probably not the first roller coaster he's played this week. And, not the last roller coaster he's played this week. So yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say about that, I suppose. Indeed, they know each other so well, and they're obviously friends. And as Matthew says, they've been playing against each other since they were kids. So these matches also tend to be a little bit more tight generally, right? If you know the opponent so well, and there's basically no surprises.
So you said you didn't watch all of this because you hate watching Medvedev on clay. Is that what you said?
I basically said that I just had other matches I wanted to watch more at the same time. I wouldn't say I hate watching Medvedev on clay, but if there's like 5 tournaments at the same time, it's unlikely that a Medvedev Khachanov match will be, like, any surface will be one that I'm choosing to watch.
Is that because you're watching a Sarasota challenger?
For example, although I think at the time probably that would have been like just barely starting.
Yeah, so Medvedev does come through just about. I couldn't really in the third set. I mean, he was 4-2 up in the third, and then and Kachanov broke again. I mean, it was just a really strange match to watch, to be honest. Neither one looked like they actually wanted to win the match, to be honest. But Medvedev will play Muller in round 2. Muller also played today against Ugo Carabelli. I personally didn't get any of this one because I can't remember why I didn't watch this, but it just didn't catch my eye in general. But any thoughts, Damien?
Yeah, not really. Ugo Carabelli had a nice win in qualies against Medjedovic, but yeah, I didn't turn into this one. Maybe I didn't tune into this one. Maybe if it went a bit closer, but yeah, of course, Miller, pretty good form this year. Had a pretty bad showing in Marrakesh in the quarterfinals, but that's still a quarterfinal, so that's not gonna be horrible. And Medvedev Miller should be another big battle, and I'm expecting a fellow roller coaster, really. Ghost, you are very much overrating my political knowledge if you think that I know whether Vietnam or Mongolia are in NATO. I mean, come on. I know if Poland is, and I know if Ukraine is, and that's the end of it.
Brenna, did you catch any of this one?
No, I did not.
That's a whitewash.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it's not appealing. It's just, I mean, Mueller. The level varies. I'm definitely interested to see, and I don't know if Damien has thoughts to see Ugo Carabelli on European clay, and how that will progress. Obviously, the grinder can counterpunch well, but I don't know about kind of him on this type of surface as opposed to South American clay.
Challengers, he's been fine. I mean, he definitely won Warsaw. It was actually his first title in Poland. I obviously watched it live. He made the final in Poznan last year, so maybe he just likes Poland. But no, I mean, in Challengers, he's done fine. On the main tour, do I expect much? I don't know. Like, if he landed a good draw in Bucharest or something like that, yeah, very possible for him to get a run. In big events, probably not so much. But yeah, this one, I mean, I kind of thought he might make it a bit closer today against Miller. You said, I think, in the tweet that he didn't break him, right? That's probably kind of disappointing in these conditions for Camilo.
Yeah. No break of the Muller serve, which he obviously taking away from that performance, especially on this sort of surface, you kind of want at least something to build off. But Muller Medvedev, it's interesting. As Damien said, I think it'll be a bit of a slog again. For Medvedev, I can see him somehow not winning this match. I'm still leaning Medvedev, but it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Muller won like 5 and 6, 2 close sets, and it kind of just slips away from Medvedev, which kind of seems to be the way his matches run at the moment. Either it's a huge slog or it's a tight 2-setter that goes his opponent's way. What about you, Brenna?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't have much expectation. I mean, the Mueller backhand obviously is the weapon there. So, we'll see if he can, get on the front foot at all. But Medvedev's going to try and make it as physical as possible. So I think we're gonna look at a huge battle in that case. And yeah, obviously the cramping and the body will obviously need a lot of work and rest. Does he have a day?
Yeah, he does.
I actually didn't check the schedule, but I know from a Jose Morgado tweet that he does.
All right.
Well,
there you
if
go.
Jose is right, then he does. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was basically specifically said about him having a day off. Haven't really checked the schedule myself, to be honest, since it's the event is a bit too big for me, but that's fine. Medvedev Miller. 2 days time. That's good for Daniel, but it's still going to be a slog.
It's something that Damien isn't booking. It's not in the calendar for Damien. Watching Medvedev.
The qualifying was, but now but at least it's still like Vacheron is playing tomorrow, so okay, I still have a few guys, I guess.
Okay, so that's Damien's plan for tomorrow. Is that And no, are you going to? I can't tell whether our producer's being serious or not. Are you actually
No,
going
no,
to
I
be
am
King
going
Cup?
to be Jin
Oh,
King
you
Cup.
are.
Unfortunately, the lineup is a little weaker than expected after Bencic withdrew. So basically now Ukraine has like the strongest team possible with Svitolina, Kostyuk, the Kichenok sisters. And then Switzerland has Wiktoria Golubic, which is good because, of course, the one-hander. And then Poland has the most talented Polish player ever, Magdalinet. And yes, from Thursday to Saturday, I will be watching that tournament in Radom, Poland. Probably my first time ever in this beautiful city, which actually has a reputation for being one of the ugliest in Poland. Can't wait.
I'm sure you can't wait. You sound buzzing, to be honest. Wawrinka, I really thought he was gonna give us that Wawrinka Medvedev Djokovic match that I really wanted to see, but he kind of threw it away. He had it on his racket and he threw it away. Damien?
Yeah, I mean, I did watch actually that for the most part because there was that big story about Wawrinka potentially getting a win as a 40-year-old in an ATP 1000. Still would have been a day off the Ivo Karlovic record, which is just so hilarious that it's all so close. Of course, Stan might just get there in another ATP 1000 coming up, and then the record will no longer be the record. But yeah, I mean, his level, I think this clay season has surprised me from the very start of it, beating Goyo and Chorich in the Naples Challenger and then going forwards. His stamina, it has actually been pretty good too. 3 hours,
That's terrible.
3 hours
That's
against
so
Skatov in
bad.
Bucharest, then also 3 hours against Martinez. And I think today, for a 40-year-old, he was holding up okay too. Definitely had his chances for, like, let's say the history book purposes. Pretty rough that he didn't get it, but for Tabilo it's pretty massive. Of course, last week 3 match points against Jenson Brooksby, 2-9 for the year, so the guy can use any win he grabs at the moment. And yeah, I mean, Djokovic, Wawrinka kind of like getting them once more this time actually would have felt, I think, a little bit better than their last encounters when Wawrinka basically had no shot. However, Djokovic Tabilo is also a matchup with history, right? So it's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, tough one. Obviously, I think we wanted the Djokovic Wawrinka match, and yeah, I mean, I'm with Damien. Like, it's just been a pleasant surprise to see him playing at this level on the clay. Just once again, I feel like it gets a little bit physical towards the end, and as Damien said, like, it's great to see Tabio at least playing with a little bit more confidence. The forehand was working a lot more. Maybe it looked like he had a little bit more like strategy out there and actually trusting his shots. Using the drop shot, using his hand skills well again. But obviously, I'm a little bit sad because I wanted that matchup. But yeah, as Damien said, hopefully we get another opportunity to see Stan compete at a Masters event and get that ATP win. So
I think that, yeah, as you two say, I've been pleasantly surprised because it looks as though Wawrinka could probably go for barring a major drop-off, could go for another year after this one with the sort of like level he's bringing. I mean, it's not like groundbreaking like Sinner stuff, but I mean, no one was expecting it to be. But it's solid enough that he can play within these big tournaments and play decent matches. He's not getting swept aside 1 and 3. Damien finds something funny, but I'm just gonna. I don't know if he's looking at something else, but yeah. Obviously, the first set was very one-sided. And it was a breakup in the second as well. I kind of thought it was going to be Stans for the win. Obviously, with the way Tabilo's been formed recently, it's been non-existent. So,
and a breakup in the third, right?
I was a breakup in the third as well. Yeah. So yeah, disappointing for Wawrinka, but I mean, repeat of Rome last year with Tabilo, Djokovic. Any ideas if it's going to be a repeat of last year or whether Djokovic is going to turn up?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, whether Djokovic is going to turn up is a bigger question, I guess, rather than like what Tabilo does. And that was also the case in Rome last year. No
Yeah.
offense to Alejandro. I mean, he almost beat Zverev in the semis. He definitely had an amazing event, had an amazing year as a whole. But yeah, to me, this is more about like Djokovic motivation, the Djokovic hunger. He has a very good draw to make the semis. I think he's probably going to, as long as he just arrives in the tournament in good mental shape. I'm not even talking about physical right now, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. But I like the fact that they're getting a rematch. Needless to say, like, yeah, regardless of how that match transpired in Rome, it's still a big story that he's going to play him again. Would be very funny if Tabilo was another player to go like 2-0 up on Novak, so just get reach the Vesely levels. Not quite Ivo Karlovic 1-3. Yes, I'm gonna mention Karlovic again just for fun. Also,
That's
keep
like the
now.
fourth. Was
I
that
wouldn't
the
say
fourth?
that he was underrated of the ground. I mean, if he was in position, his flat forehand was okay. But like, how can you be in position when you move like a German tank? So yeah, it's not really possible. And obviously, off the backhand, he was just slicing the ball 99% of the time. So thank you. No,
That's
Gene,
the-
please. Gene, no, please. No, not the water bottle incident. I've read too much PUBG, I've read too much PUBG claiming that the water basically, I don't know, just affected Novak for the next half a year. And yeah, I just can't anymore. How did Jaziri get so high in the rankings? He had good runs. No, I mean, pretty naturally talented player, good shot maker. Maybe a little high, but he was a legit tour player for a while, for sure.
Swiftly moving on from the fourth Karlovic name drop and the PUBG name drop, which I really wasn't expecting today. Brenna, what's your thoughts on Djokovic Tabilo?
Yeah, I mean, I think we start at the mental spot for Djokovic. I think the revenge spot is perfect for him, especially like get up for the first round match here. And I think we're looking at a different Tabio in terms of a year ago, how Tabio has continued to progress and confidence for him. I feel like he is a player who gets very, very tight in some big moments. So I just think from that perspective, Djokovic will, have a reason to get up for the match in terms of revenge and should take care of business.
Yeah, the ghosty just saying the curious incident where the water bottle slipped out of his hands as he launched it at the chair umpire.
And one thing that you're not probably like, I don't think either of you is thinking about, also Andrei Martin, the doping ban, right? Because he drank from a floorball teammate's water bottle, and that was spiked with drugs. So yeah, actually, Ghosty is very right that there's so many stories you can write about water bottles somehow.
Anyway, we'll talk a little bit about Gael Monfils, who played maybe one of the points of the year today. I'm sure both of you have seen that point that with 32 shots or something. That just was a bit ridiculous. Monfils obviously came through. He's in such good form. Well, he's in such good form at the moment. I mean, he seems to just be getting better with age. I mean, it's ridiculous how well he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, last year I think he kept saying, including to me and John in Ashtori, that like clay isn't really his thing anymore. Like he needs that quicker court, and I think that's what we also saw generally. So I don't have like super high expectations for this part of the season, but yeah, very nice win after the opening set. Just kind of way too good defensively, despite being 38. And that's pretty much where it ended, that opening set for Marozsan. But yeah, my expectations for the clay season are definitely a little bit more lukewarm than otherwise. But yeah, I mean, on hard, he's like a top 30 player right now at least. So certainly, yeah, it's been a nice campaign for him. Also, Keen, if you want to see more of two-handed slices, Florian Mayer is the way to go. Not that he's playing anymore, which of course he isn't, but but you can try that on YouTube, I guess.
There isn't a player that you can name that Damien hasn't heard of.
I mean, Florian Mayer made Wimbledon quarterfinals twice. I mean, if you were watching tennis, back in my days, you would be
back in your.
He beat Alexander Zverev in Halle as
78.
well. That was very famous, and yeah, just a unique player in many ways. So easy to remember.
Making it sound like you're 80 going on 90, Damien, back in my day.
Yeah, but it kind of feels like this, because if you haven't heard of Florian Mayer, it kind of feels like it. Yeah, that I'm the grandpa, and I'm just like, yeah, there was this guy. Okay, his first Wimbledon quarter I think was like 2004. So okay, but like the latter one, he was still good in like 2016. I think he won Halle. So it does kind of feel like I'm the grandpa of this group.
Well, his first quarter in 2004, I was -1, so kind of puts that into perspective for you. Brenna, Monfils Marathon.
Yeah, I didn't watch much of it, but I think that from that point on, it was just a completely different match, and very one-sided. Marathon, he's filled with surprises. I think he's always a tough opponent, especially at Masters events. He just tends to show up at these bigger events. So it was definitely no easy out, but just felt like from that long rally on, there was really nothing doing. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see Monfils playing this well at this age. I don't know. I'm with Damien in terms of the clay. He's not going to get as much out of his big powerful shots, but man, I mean, he just brings a different kind of aura to every match he plays in terms of, getting the crowd behind, being a showman still. And it feels like he's just enjoying himself out there. So it is always a pleasure to watch. Going forward, he's got a tough matchup ahead with Rublev. So I know they were both at the UTS event. I don't know if they played against each other or whatever, but, that'll I think that might be a little bit more of a different story.
Yeah. Rublev Monfils obviously has Rublev next. Rublev obviously the champion here in 23. Likes these conditions a lot. I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. But I don't know. I think this is a bit too much of a push for Monfils, Damien.
Are they playing tomorrow, or is it a day off for him?
I think they are playing tomorrow.
Maybe that's not the end of the world. I don't know. I mean, I just have zero trust in Rublev right now. It's tough to have any after Indian Wells and Miami. And just think he's vulnerable, and that's it. I'm not saying he's going to lose here because, well, as I said, Monfils on clay this year by this stage of his career. I'm also pretty lukewarm, but yeah, that's basically where we are, right? Again, with Rublev, we are on a streak of a few losses. Last year in Monte Carlo, he also lost to Popyrin in the second round. Just doesn't seem like he's that much of a threat at the moment. So I guess for the time being, when I see him in the draw, I'm just not really thinking, oh yeah, Andrei Rublev could go far here. So I'm just assuming he's going to lose in one of the first few rounds. Whether it's going to be here, no clue. Also pretty fun. Well, I just came up with this stat, but Andrei Rublev is basically the only player ever to call out Gael Monfils on his, overacting, let's say, on the tennis court in that Cincinnati clash. So maybe something like that again. Although they actually, just settled that argument very quickly. So
you are. Everyone in the chat is right. They are playing on Wednesday. That's my bad. Not tomorrow. They're playing on Wednesday.
I guess first mistake. But yeah, that's even better for Gael, I guess. Then.
Brenna, Monfils, Rublev.
Yeah,
I mean, true Ghosty, by the way. Sorry, Ghosty. Yes, you're right. A bit of a different antics thing, because it wasn't about the the getting exhausted part. But you're right. That's a similar case, I guess.
I mean, as I was saying, I think I agree with Damien in terms of Rublev. Like, you kind of just don't know when he'll show up, but what I think is exciting is I think it's going to be his first match with new coach Murat Safin. So that'll be a little bit, more exciting to watch in terms of, him being such a, I guess, big figure in terms of Rublev's, mental health as a whole. So I think it'll be fun to kind of see that connection come out on court. But yeah, you just talk about, two of the more friendly guys on tour, but from a clay perspective and Rublev having won this event in 2023, you just fancy him a little bit more here.
Yeah, I fancy Rublev too. Obviously, they could probably have a who can hit the ball harder sort of contest. But in that sort of matchup, I do favour Rublev. But I think as they're probably just a bit fresher, obviously it's kind of a new, fresh start for Andre. But, Monfils can make it very, very difficult. And you kind of don't know, as Damien said, you don't really know what you're going to get from Rublev at this current moment. Obviously has a lot of points to defend in a couple of weeks' time in Madrid, but here, I mean, it's tough, but I'm still going to lean Rublev into, I think, 2 tight sets.
Gene, it was Popyrin who Rublev lost to. Also, Keen, you have to watch Dolgopolov Tomic Australian Open, like 2012 or 13. You're gonna like Dolgopolov. He played with all sorts of wonky spins and ideas. So should be kind of like your type of guy in that sense, I think. And Safin, was just like a really good ball striker who didn't care about working hard. So I guess you'd like him too, since you like Nick Kyrgios. but yeah.
Kian, I'm absolutely buzzing that Charlie Robertson got the win today thanks to retirement at 4-4 in the first set. But we take those. Doesn't really affect my mood. Yeah, happy that he got the win. Moving on. Berrettini versus Navoni. Berrettini with a pretty routine win 6-4, 6-4, but more importantly faces Zverev in round 2, which is a very tasty matchup. Brenner.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was super routine today. I think Navone pushed him a bit, and it was a little bit kind of like Navone's matches in terms of just not being able to, protect his serve. And I felt like he was kind of overplaying the backhand cross court, but Berrettini, his backhand was able to, I guess, hold up, and he was kind of getting away with it in a sense. And, we like to see Berrettini run around that backhand, and probably wasn't using the slices as much as he typically does. But yeah, I don't think it's, I don't know, in terms of a matchup with Zverev, I think it'll be very one-sided in terms of the conditions, a little bit windier, big high ball toss for Berrettini. I just don't think he's going to get as much out of his strokes, and he's just not as comfortable on the surface. And yeah, as Gene's saying, a lot closer of a match today with Navone than, the scoreline suggests. And I think Navone was just kind of a hold away there at the final kind of end of the match where it could have turned, but Navone being a grinder, natural clay quarter, I thought, there was maybe more in the tank there, but I felt like Berrettini maybe got away with it a bit.
Yeah, especially in that second set, it was 4-1 Berrettini, and then obviously it was 4-4, and then it kind of got a bit nervous for Berrettini towards the end. But then, as you said, the scoreline kind of made it look better than it actually was from Berrettini today. And I mean, coming back from a double break on the Berrettini serve isn't something that can be taken lightly. But yeah, just kind of fell short in the big moments today from Navoni. I feel like he just kind of had to hit that Raonic stat.
against Thomas Berdy, who was that 2015 performance from Karlovic. And then he lost to Federer.
But yeah, Navoni kind of just fell short in the big moments. Yes, Kian, Charlie Robson is the future of British tennis, and I'm very excited for it, but that's for another stream. As for a stream with just me and James talking solely about British tennis, which I cannot wait for, that will never happen.
Keen loves British tennis indeed. When the World Cup was happening, he kept texting me like every single round, it's coming home, it's coming home. And then, or actually it was during the Euros, I guess. But anyway, yeah, he loves British culture and tennis and football and everything. No, he was actually texting me scared that it was coming home, and I had to tell him, don't worry, they're going to lose at some point. And thankfully they did. Anyway, we were talking about Berrettini. Yeah. I didn't watch him against Navone, which might be surprising to a lot of people, including the producer, who keeps pushing this narrative that I'm a big Matteo Berrettini fan. I was kind of hoping to watch this match. I didn't know who I was rooting for, to be honest, because I think either one against Zverev is pretty exciting. But because it got, okay, you guys are saying that it was slightly more competitive than it looks, but because it didn't seem that competitive, I never actually got around to starting to watch it. There were just some other matches at the same time. Anyway, I don't know about this like super easy match for Zverev there. Yeah, sure. Berrettini's slice doesn't work that well on clay. He has no backhand, but like, is Zverev going to take advantage of that? Like, the guy hasn't hit a confident shot in 2 months. Actually, during the Australian Open, he wasn't even hitting confident shots. I mean, was he confident in this final when he didn't have a break point against Sinner for 3 sets, or against, I don't know, Tommy Paul when he was playing just absolutely ridiculous for 2 sets and should have lost both of them, but somehow he survived? I don't know. I'm just not really that confident that Zverev, if it comes to like a pressure situation, is going to be capable of going after the weaknesses that Berrettini has. So it looks pretty even to me, more or less. But Zverev obviously had a deadly draw at Indian Wells 2, lost to Griekspoor in the opening round. It's not going to be easy for Zverev. I think the way that this tournament draw is structured, it's just like he's never actually getting an easy match here, because if he beats Berrettini, then it's Musetti or Lehečka, then it's likely Tsitsipas or Rune. The chance that he gets through all of that, it's a little slim. Yeah, 4-2 and 2-1 on clay. Madrid final, of course, is the biggest encounter between them, but they also played in Rome twice.
Yeah. I was kind of, I don't know, I think everything cut out there for a second, but yeah, just replying to that producer comment, you have to remember that the Raonic match was against Cam Norrie, so obviously I watched that match and I remember it so clearly.
You shouldn't mention this though, because getting aced 47 times,
it was
it's not something to be proud of.
Before my time. Anything, not before my time. I watched this match painfully go by very, very fast. Zverev Berrettini's, I mean, it's not going to be one that I tune in for, to be honest, because watching Zverev is not one of my favorite pastimes. And I mean, it would definitely be interesting to see who can outserve the other one, as in who makes the first sort of breakpoint moves. But I think Zverev will come through this. But I just don't know if Zverev can trust himself at the moment, let alone actually trust his game. So that's an unnecessary jab at my age from the producer, but
you can just say that, I mean, when Oppenheimer was, let's say, at work, the producer was being born, so that's fine.
But yeah, I'm gonna go Zverev in 2. Yeah, so Shelton, obviously, I'm going to talk about Shelton because our producer said and put out a poll on Talking Tennis: will Shelton end this clay season with a positive record? And I didn't watch the first set, and I was thinking, well, he's not going to shut up about this now if Shelton wins this first match. Unfortunately, well, what followed was then kind of like a demolition as Shelton fell from 7-6 to love up to losing the next 12 out of 13 games. Did either of you two watch any of this one?
I watched a little bit of the second set, and I watched a tiebreak too. I don't think this should have been much of a match at all, to be honest. But I don't know if there was like many positives if I'm looking at the Ben Shelton side. From the Fokina side, kind of more of the same in terms of blowing leads, break points, whatever it is. But at the end, kind of regrouped, got himself together, showed that he's a much more comfortable player on this surface and, took care of business. So, yeah, not much to make of it for me. I think it was just a classic kind of Fokina match.
Yeah, I mean, we can see where Brenner voted in the poll then. It was probably a no. Gene, I think it wasn't even the fact that he didn't hold serve. I don't think he even had like a chance to hold. Like he was always just losing his games so quickly. So yeah, pretty disappointing. The poll is actually like a running joke that we've had for like 2 years. I remember John was trying to like make it a thing in 2023, and basically Shelton went like 4-8 or something like that. And that's including the Cagliari Challenger. But I am, let's say, in that church of Ben Shelton potentially being good on clay because he has the assets for it. He just needs to like start trusting his baseline game, and I don't know, for it to be acceptable. But today it certainly was not. It was kind of more of that Shelton Sinner Australian Open semi when for like 11 games Ben is playing so well and the backhand is actually in the court, and he can play off the ground with another player, whereas after that it just basically dies right there on the spot. Still a lot to figure out there. So I guess it's not the biggest story, but when someone steals an opening set like that and goes up a break in the second set, even if, as Keen mentioned earlier in the chat, it's not as important because it's a slow clay court. So like the fact that he was up a break maybe isn't that important. But coupling that with the fact that he stole the opening set, you'd expect him to at least like roll with it for a while, for a moment. But yeah, he just didn't.
If Ben plays Mallorca this year, he's going to have to get through Paul Jubb. We all know this. We all know that.
Yeah. How is Paul Jubb even getting into the Mallorca events this time? I mean, they're going to have to give him a wildcard to the qualifying, I think.
I don't know.
I mean, isn't his ranking like going down with every week?
I just had to throw that in there. I just felt like that was needed.
No, that's a good reference. Yeah, for sure. He's going to have to get through Chris Eubanks, the 2023 champion.
Anyway, moving on. I just feel like Shelton's really reluctant to mold his game to fit this sort of surface. He really looked like he was not having a good time post 2-love in the second set. Just really kind of not. He wasn't playing nearly as well as he can, and when you take away the gravity of, obviously the serve is such a big weapon for him, and you take away, obviously the clay neutralizes that serve slightly, so you take away that and you realize how unpolished the backhand is with Shelton, and how erratic the forehand can be. Don't get me wrong, Shelton's a fantastic player, but just when you take away that big serve, it shows that there's definitely still work to be done on his game to get it to where it can be, which is such a high level, which is really a shame that we haven't got to this point on the clay yet that he can challenge the big guys up top.
Yeah, I mean, also like Fokina wasn't an easy ask. for
No,
the
no,
first
no,
round.
no.
You know what I mean? So
No, absolutely not.
I was a little bit negative in terms of how I at least laid out the storyline. But yeah, I mean, yes, there's things to work on, and
Absolutely.
I think it's a mutual understanding there
Yeah.
from everyone. But
Yeah, I've no doubts that Shelton knows what he needs to do to improve on the clay, but I feel as though that with his ranking and his potential for where he could be sat in the rankings, this is probably an area that he wants to work on quite solidly. But yeah, I have no doubts that he can get to a level on the clay that he can be right up there. But obviously, starting out first round against Davidic Fokina, someone that's so experienced on the clay, that's never someone that something that you want really. Davidic Fokina will play Monte or Echeverry on Wednesday. Any ideas from you, Damien?
Not really. I mean, it's Monte. Anything can happen. Echeverry has been in horrible form. Houston, obviously, an event where he's done well for 2 years, and he loses to Kovacevic in a very dry match, if you may. Just so yeah, at this point in time, definitely there's no ideas here. Monte Davidovich Fokina would be quite a clown show, let's say, in terms of the shot making and all the different rallies that we'd see there. So I can imagine that a lot of people would be willing to see that match in the second round and kind of hope that it's I don't know, Shank Mute-ish from Madrid last year. It's not that bad, Ghosty. I mean, yeah, it's true that for the base price you can only bring a backpack, but it can be pretty big. I've had a 7-day trip just with that backpack, so it's definitely not like this takeaway bag McDonald's comparison.
7 days.
Yeah.
That's impressive, Damien. That's impressive.
Yeah, I had to really stick it and just fill it up to no end, and basically I was scared that it was gonna go over. I was scared that it was gonna just break, and at some point I just stopped doing that, and now I am actually buying the extra luggage, and with that at least my head is clearer and I can just safely get to the place where I want without any I don't even know what I'm going.
I can surprisingly follow up on that because when I was abroad, I took Ryanair a bunch. Yeah, I mean, I had to travel with a small backpack too, but you make it work.
It's not that it's not as bad as Ghosty said, right? I mean, it's
right.
It's okay.
Right.
But it is one of the cheapest, yes, airlines in Europe, and it has a reputation for being just that, a budget thing, which is good. We all like our budget.
It has a reputation. I was wondering what you were going to say then, a reputation of what? Because there are many things that Ryanair has a reputation of, and budget is definitely one of them. There's a video out there of him saying that, of the guy that owns Ryanair saying he'd make standing seats in his planes so he could get more people on his plane. It's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on.
Visionary, true visionary.
Visionary is one word.
The Elon Musk of Europe.
Standing room only.
I don't think we're going to get into Elon Musk on the stream, especially with an American on the stream. Anyway, speaking of Americans, Marcus Giron and Denis Shapovalov. I did, for some reason, tune into this. For no reason specifically whatsoever. Actually, no, the main reason was to see who Draper plays in round 2. That's probably the main reason I tuned in first. Yeah, Damien's face says it all. Yeah. Giron played.
You should be happy then, right?
I am, very much so. Giron played well. Well, yeah, no, he played well. But Shapovalov looked a bit out of practice on the clay. There was on social media, he was seen practicing on the green clay indoors, and I don't think he had that much time to make it from Monte Carlo to from Sweden, where I think he was practicing, to here in Monte Carlo. So maybe that was a bit of a change that he needed to adjust, but I just think in the key moments it was a real bad service game to give away early on, and Giron just kind of took that in his stride, and then in the breaker it was pretty close, and then at 5-5 Giron produced probably best shot of the match with a pass, kind of a slap pass cross court, and Shapovalov couldn't do anything with it, and that was kind of the difference. Went out to serve it, I'll serve it. But yeah, either of you two have any thoughts?
No, I didn't catch this match.
Don't all shout at once, guys. Don't all shout at once. I know Shapovalov is the most exciting match.
No, I mean, I was just waiting for Brenner to say something because I didn't watch it, but yeah, it's Chapo and Clay. I mean, I have this theory that, like, basically if you made him play, I don't know, let's say all the guys from 201 to 300 in the rankings or something like that, he'd lose actually a lot more matches than you think. So much of that is just like literally him coming out and hitting 50 errors like in this one. And yeah,
he only hit
as much as
49 in this match, so
yeah, that's why I'm referencing this, because Jean said it in the chat. But yeah, as much as like Marcos Giron is obviously not a clay courter, and the fact that his aggressive shots don't have that much like pace or quality on them generally, it doesn't matter in a Shapovalov matchup. He just plays directly into what Marcos wants on clay, I guess. So it was all on Dennis. He lost it, and I do think he should be happy. I think it's a much more manageable opponent for Jack now.
Well, yeah, I mean, all I was thinking was it was going down. I'm like, all right, me and Damien kind of penciled in Shapovalov Draper, and obviously that plan did not hold up. So I don't know. Yeah, Giron on clay, kind of a mystery. Not know what you're gonna get, but he's physical. He's a grinder. He can, slap shot. That's like a good way to summarize the match. Probably. I don't know, but yeah, his shots don't do much on this surface, so I don't really have much expectation for him. But yeah, I mean, this is. I don't know. Mario put out a tweet today. What was it? He's won a Masters everywhere. Masters.
Yeah, won a first round match at all Masters now.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely didn't see it coming. But yeah, Chapo playing himself out there.
Yeah. So Giron Draper. This is kind of looking like a good introduction onto the clay for Draper. To be honest. Hasn't played a match on clay yet, and it wouldn't surprise me if it takes Draper a couple of games to just sort of warm to the match. He might get broken early, but I see no problem for Draper tomorrow. Probably 4-4, 4-3, something like that. We know that Draper has the game that can suit clay. So we'll see what he does, but I don't think there are any issues tomorrow for Jack.
With no Hubert Hurkacz around in the Monte Carlo draw, Jack is safe to win at least a round.
I don't want to talk about it, Damien. Okay. 3 times.
Apparently, Fergus is not that new a tennis fan, since he remembers both, I guess, Hubert Hurkacz, Jack Draper, Monte Carlo matches.
Rome. Yeah. I mean, both 3 setters, and then they played in Rome as well last year, 6-1, 7-5. It was 7-6 it was a breaker in the third last year, and in Monte Carlo, and a breaker in the third the year before as well, after he beat Baez in the opening round. So, yeah, I'm not that new of a tennis fan. Well,
yeah, I mean, I do think he's definitely gonna be happier playing Giron than Shapovalov. There's just less of a threat. Jack is not the same kind of winner / unforced error machine as Dennis is. Yeah. Should be comfortable, I guess.
The new king of clay is what? Hurkacz? I mean,
he did win Estoril, Where is Jack Draper's ATP Tour clay court title?
True. I was actually just about to ask that. Where's Jack Draper's Estoril title?
Yeah.
Ghosty, You need to ask James that question, not me. I have 0. But yeah.
Do you have Jack Draper on like your laptop or your phone, like the lock screen or something like that?
No, I do not.
Do you guys have something, by the way, do you guys have something tennis related on your lock screens or not?
I don't.
No, I don't.
Ah, yeah.
What do you have? Do you have Iga?
I do actually, yeah. No, I just put a random photo. I don't know how much of this you're going to see from a tennis match last year, and that's actually Pablo Carreño Busta and Kamil Majchrzak playing in Poznań.
Good match.
Yeah, very good match for sure. Definitely better than their Austrian Open encounter this year. But last year, yeah, that comeback from 1-4 was very fun in the third.
Damien, you look so young, even though that was probably like, when was that?
That's a story last year.
Last year.
Yeah, I'm discussing something. I'm discussing the beer, I guess.
The beer.
How many times have you and our producer met up?
Twice for sure. I guess twice. Both in Portugal, funny enough, or no, actually Spain as well. So 3 times. Yeah.
And you're going to Estoril again this year.
Oh, and Bonn as well. Yeah, 4 times. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's after like the first 2, it's easy to lose track. But yeah. I guess Bonn, Estoril, Porto, and Montemar. And yeah, we are going to Estoril both. Yeah.
And Free is going to be there, so our producer's absolutely buzzing with that.
Who is going to be there? Sorry,
I thought you said, is Freya not going to be there? Jean Freya?
I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, if he's healthy, obviously.
I'm 99. He's on the entry list, isn't he? Unless I'm dreaming.
I mean, I don't think he would make the cut for the entry list right now, would he? Anyway, I mean, the entry list for Estoril and Aix-en-Provence, of course, they are very, very like, they're going to change because the players who are in Madrid and generally like the 175s, it's not even worth it looking at the entry list. But obviously, there are some names which we hope will be there. I mean, Faria, yeah, if he's fit, he should be there. If he doesn't make it on the ranking, they will give him a wild card, I'm sure. So yeah, probably the friend of the show, I'm assuming, will also meet there. I don't know if he'll go for a beer with us.
Just got to win the title.
Yeah. Can you imagine the scenes? My word. Probably the biggest upset of I don't know if you can count it as an upset, but Daniel Altmaier and Felix Auger-Aliassime in straights. Aliassime looked out of sorts and not on it today, really. And Altmaier played that level that he can play and seems to bring out like once every 3 weeks and then puts away for the next 2 weeks and then brings it back out again. Brenda, what are your thoughts?
Well, I didn't catch too much of the match. I saw kind of the last few games, but no, me and Damien were talking about yesterday. I knew that was going to be a tough battle in terms of who was Gasquet was awaiting the winner here. And as you say, Altmaier can play at a high level on, slow, high bouncing clay. It looks like a little just kind of a messy match in terms of the first set, Felix going up big and then losing it, and then Altmaier was serving for the first set, so kind of looks like a roller coaster there. But then from what I tuned in was when Felix had love 43 break points to stay in the match, and Felix is kind of overusing the come-ons and just like a simple error from Altmaier and just trying to get in his head, so it got a little spicy down the end. There was a long stare down from Altmaier at Felix. But yeah, as we talked about, I don't know if it's much of an upset. We'd obviously want Felix to do better. And I don't know, another kind of a talking point around Monte Carlo is, how many guys, and I don't know, we'll say the top 30 have residences here and, have practice here and, spent time here. So I think Felix is one of them. So I guess you can say you were expecting a little bit more, I don't know, comfortability, support in this matchup. But yeah, I mean, Altmaier is always a tough opponent, and now we get a one-handed backhand battle in the next round.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's an upset whatsoever. There was a comment as well from the producer who said that like the Giron upset or something, the Giron shock was a bigger, the Giron win over Shapo was a bigger shock or something like that. I mean, using the word shock for either case, no, sorry. Altmaier, yeah, very like good in these conditions. Very like natural, talented shot maker with the defensive variety he brings into. I don't know, Felix. I just remember talking a lot about him, obviously at the beginning of the year. But when you watched his matches, like they were kind of just pretty pedestrian. But he kept rolling, he kept winning, and obviously was using that confidence very well. But I'm not really surprised it came to a stop at some point. And yeah, admire nice opportunity for him drawing Felix in an event like this, and he managed to take it. That is Matthew. Yes, the best match that Felix has ever played on clay, 100%.
Talking specifically ranking wise in terms of shock, using that word lightly. But now kind of gives an insight into Gasquet Altmaier, which is interesting, definitely. 2 one-handed backhands. I mean, Gasquet has to see this as an opportunity to go through again. Obviously played a pretty good level against Arnaldi. This isn't a unreachable task for Gasquet by any means.
Yeah, not gonna be a shock if he wins, but I do think Altmaier is the favorite. I don't know, just one win for Gasquet, against someone who is so inconsistent like Arnaldi. It probably takes, something a little bit more, I guess, to beat someone like Altmaier. Should be fun though. The angles on the one-handers will be sick.
That's the first time I've ever heard Damien use that word.
That is actually very, very. I mean, that just means you're not listening to me, because I remember some people in the chat pointing out, maybe it was Matthew actually, that this is very like 2000s slang, but yeah, I do use it a ton actually. Yeah.
You used the word sick all the time. Wow. Okay, that's.
It was a thing in the chat that someone pointed it out like a couple of months ago.
Gene shock, so,
that it's maybe it wasn't Matthew, but I think it was an American guy anyway. But yeah, I do use it semi-frequently, let's say.
Brenna, what did you think about? What do you think about Altmaier Gasquet?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be some fun points, of course, but yeah, with Altmaier, just the physical aspect to it all, maybe a little bit more consistent. So, I think we've seen flashes. Like, I think for Gasquet, in terms of being out of that match against Botic, and, you just kind of found a random spell and he's kind of run with it a bit. It's fun, but yeah, maybe 3, but no, I'd lean more Altmaier into.
And finally, the last singles match of the day, because obviously Damien was gripped by the doubles. But Cerundolo versus Fognini, which was a bit of a demolition job by Cerundolo. Fognini just didn't show up today. 11-3. It was. I mean, it wasn't something that was. I mean, going to be a thriller. I mean, if Fognini would have to really turn up, but Cerundolo's the leading win maker on the ATP tour this year. So, he's in great form, and I think Fognini just wasn't at the races today, Damien.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to say here really. There's one informed player here, and this even in the 3 names that we see on the screen, there's one informed player. It is Franz Cerundolo, the future top 10 player, the future ATP 1000 winner. Not necessarily here, but I mean, if he beats Carlos, then the opportunities will be presenting itself to him, even themselves to him, even this week. Yeah, I mean, this was just like a bit of a no match, but we expected that, I suppose. This year for Fognini is absolutely horrible so far, and he's physically, he also seems pretty like out of shape. So nothing more to say really, other than the fact that Segundo Alcaraz, now that is a cracking second round. That's what I like. Carlos only won ATP, only won Monte Carlo match before in his career, so it just adds to the intrigue. And Segundo is like, the most informed player on the tour at the moment. Also pushed him in Indian Wells. So yes, bring it on. It should be, I would like it to be like in 20 minutes right after the stream. But unfortunately, we'll have to wait.
Damien's definitely got that one in the book. No Medvedev, no Zverev, no Berrettini, only Cerundolo. That's all he's got time for. Brenner.
Yeah, I mean, I already raved about it a little bit yesterday on the ATP Weekly show, but you just get two guys who, to me, are just such well-rounded tennis players. Obviously, I love Cerundolo's game. Today it just kind of looked like a hitting clinic for him, with Fognini not really posing much of a threat. You kind of wish that Fognini would kind of get up for this match, having played, some memorable matches here in Monte Carlo, but just wasn't the case. So we're getting exactly what we wanted, and I just say I'm super excited, as is Damien. It's going to be a thriller. Definitely Cerundolo more, I'd say, in form in terms of comfortability with his game at the moment. But I mean, man, just the variety in ball striking from these two, the baseline battles that we're going to get, it's going to be amazing. So I don't know. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, I mean, this should definitely be, this wouldn't shock me as the match of the week, and this is probably a match that has the potential to be better than the final. I mean, we don't even know. I mean, we literally haven't even finished all of round one yet, and we're already talking about who's going to be in the final. But I mean, this should be definitely a huge matchup. Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning Carlos in 3, mainly because I just think that he will find a spark. First match on clay, he's obviously. I do think clay's his second best surface, because he's. I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, it's very tough. Like, I'm not even sure which one you pointed out as the best. Then,
right? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you can make the case for everything there. It depends.
I was about to say, as I said that, I was like,
court than the actual surface. Yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of just dug myself a hole, and I've kind of don't even have a shovel to get myself out of it. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna lean Alcaraz in 3 because I just feel as though he might pull through. Like, he obviously has had some really close matches that he just hasn't been able to get through recently, and now I feel like he'll finally kind of get over the line and get over the hump.
Yeah, I think Gene makes a good point in terms of like Fred's ability to find offense so easily. I mean, he's just so clean. In terms of the forehand, it just like pops, but he can kind of lull you a bit in terms of changing up that pace and then just blasting a cross-court forehand winner. In terms of kind of being on the front foot, I think it'll be a little bit different for him because Carlos is always looking to dictate and be on the front foot and playing offense. So he's going to have to be a little bit more patient, neutralize and then wait for his opportunities. But yeah, definitely just excited to see Carlos in Monte Carlo, and kind of just to see how he, looks and feels on court. But I mean, you couldn't ask for a tougher clay court match to start your campaign here.
And finally, Damien, any prediction or are you going to hedge like you usually do? But you did say that this is the one tournament in the year that you don't hedge. So,
I mean, what I said on the ATP Weekly was that if Carlos gets through this one, he wins the title. So
okay, that's pretty clear cut. So we'll take that.
That's the if. But like it's a big if for me at the moment. I think all of what you said, for example, like that's just a hunch. Like that's nothing more. There's no logic to me in this match here because like Alcaraz played some, the way that he played against Goffin, and again just looking pretty disinterested and not like, I don't know, not playing with that passion he usually tends to have. I don't know. It's not really up to me whether he's going to deliver on that. Cerundolo is obviously still a pretty erratic player, but the consistency of his results, of his game, of his shots over the past 2 months has been insane. So it would probably be unwise to expect him to just kind of like have a stinker. But yeah, I mean, Carlos Alcaraz, I don't know what I'm going to get from him at the moment. However, yes, I do think that if he gets through Cerundolo, the draw will really open up. And especially considering I had another call in that, I think that Casper Ruud is probably going to race to the semis with ease. And then you have Alcaraz Ruud in the semis, and that's also a good matchup for Carlos. So yeah, I mean, to me, he's going to be a pretty significant title favorite as long as he gets through this one. I want it to be Harrison, Ozan. I don't know, just kind of be that guy who, he's a little, he doesn't write much, but once he writes something, it's, I don't know, Walmart guitar gently weeps or something like that. That's what I want here. But I mean, fair enough. I could be Paul as well. Paul is good. At least I'm not Ringo.
You don't. No one's Ringo apparently. Maybe John can be Ringo. Yeah. You don't get to choose, though. I don't think. You aren't. Ozan gets to choose. Yeah. So that was all the matches for today. Obviously, Cerundolo Alcaraz is obviously our favorite that everyone's going to be looking forward to. And I feel as though that's the general feeling throughout all tennis fans at the moment. But yeah, unless our producer wants anything else from us, I think we will call it there. I'm just waiting for his word, but yeah.
No, I saw his face, and he was doing something like that. So that means we're all good. We're all good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Brennan and Damien. Pleasure, as always, to have you both on here. And thank you all very much for joining us. And we will see you all. And you guys are going to get classic John Silk in about 20 seconds. I know you all love seeing John Silk's face. So we'll see you guys very, very soon.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.